You already know which friendship this is about. You felt it the moment you read the title. A specific name, a specific face. The person who leaves you feeling slightly worse than before you spoke. Whose problems always find their way to the center of every conversation. Whose needs have a way of expanding to fill whatever space you offer. And you keep showing up. Not because it feels good, but because ending it feels worse. And you've been telling yourself that's what loyalty looks like. It isn't. Here's what's actually happening. Draining friendships don't persist because of loyalty. They persist because of what ending them would require you to confront. Not about the other person, about yourself. Here's what the research on relationship maintenance shows. People don't stay in friendships that cost more than they return because they're weak or conflict-averse or unusually kind. They stay because those friendships are doing something that has nothing to do with the other person. They're filling a gap. And the gap is the thing worth examining. Because here's what nobody says about the friendship you can't bring yourself to end. It's easier to keep than the silence that would replace it. Psychologists who study attachment in adult friendships identify a pattern they call relationship dependency without reciprocity. The tendency to maintain unbalanced connections, not because they provide genuine value, but because their absence would force a confrontation with something more uncomfortable than the friendship itself. Specifically, the realization of what was never really there. Because the draining friendship, for all its costs, provides something. Familiarity, history, the feeling of being needed, the identity of being a good friend, the structured distraction of someone else's problems, the sense of connection, however hollow, that's preferable to the alternative. And the alternative is what keeps most people from leaving, not the other person, the gap they would leave behind. Because ending a friendship that has gone on for years, a friendship with shared history, inside references, the accumulated texture of a long connection, doesn't just remove a person from your life, it removes a version of you. The you that existed inside that friendship, the role you played, the way you were known, the specific person you became in the context of that relationship. And for people whose sense of identity is partly built on being needed, on being the reliable one, the supportive one, the one who shows up regardless, ending the friendship doesn't just feel like a loss. It feels like an amputation of a part of themselves they're not sure exists without the other person to reflect it back. Psychologists call this enmeshed identity, when the boundary between self and relationship becomes so blurred that leaving the relationship feels like leaving part of yourself behind. And here's what makes it so hard to see from the inside. It looks like loyalty. It sounds like loyalty. The language of staying, they need me, we've been through so much, I can't just abandon them, maps perfectly onto the language of genuine care, but genuine care doesn't consistently leave you depleted. Genuine friendship doesn't require you to manage yourself carefully before every interaction. Genuine connection doesn't produce the specific exhaustion of spending time with someone who takes more than they give and calls it closeness. What you're describing isn't loyalty. It's the elaborate maintenance of a structure that protects you from something you'd rather not face. The possibility that beneath the friendship, beneath the history and the familiarity and the identity it provides, there is less than you've been telling yourself. Less genuine connection, less reciprocal care, less of the thing that makes a friendship worth the cost of keeping. And the reason that confrontation is so threatening isn't because it says something about the other person. It says something about the years. The years spent maintaining something that wasn't quite what you needed it to be. The years of showing up for someone who didn't show up the same way back. The years that would have to be reclassified. Not as loyalty, but as something closer to fear, dressed in loyalty's clothing. That's what the gap contains. Not just the absence of the person, but the question their absence forces. What was this actually? And the answer to that question, honest, undefended, clear-eyed, is the thing the draining friendship has been protecting you from. For years. So here's the question worth sitting with. If you remove this friendship from your life tomorrow, what would the silence actually feel like? Relief? Or the specific discomfort of something unresolved finally having nowhere left to hide? Because the answer to that question tells you more about why you're keeping it than anything else. If a specific friendship got heavier as this video went on, that weight is telling you something, not about them, about what you've been using the friendship to avoid looking at directly.